Welcome to it. I'll start. Welcome to another episode of Wisdom on the Front Porch. And on my front porch with Zoom today, we have Greg. Greg, how are you?
I'm really, really good. I'm excited. I love your intro, and I'm really glad to be here today. Thanks so much for
Oh,
having
all right. Love the little book you have hanging there. It's Reclaim the Moment. I'm going to have
That's
to
right.
talk to you about how to do that. I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I love having it on screen just as a reminder for people that whether they're an entrepreneur, non-entrepreneur human being, or whoever they might be, that there's ideas in that book that might benefit them. So it's just fun to have it on screen.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I've got my giving books over here. Still working on
Oh,
getting number four in a paperback. It's out there on
nice.
Kindle, of course, on KDP. And but because this one had I actually had 57 authors. It says 56, but well, I don't know how to count yet. And so so there were a lot. It was a lot in this, more than before. So Amazon wanted me to do things a different way, so I've kind of been working with them. Once you've got it down just right, everything changes.
That's right. That's right.
But that's okay. I'm wearing my jacket today. My husband put the air conditioner on because we've actually had 84-degree weather here in
My gosh.
Central Texas. Can you believe it? And so it was just a little cold today, and it's like, I'm just going to leave it like it is and just
A,
put a
a
jacket
little
on.
cold, a little cold as I look out the window of the studio and see the remnants of snow and last night's ice. Yeah, exactly. So sure, a little
Yeah,
cold.
inside here, air
Yeah.
conditioning cold. No, I used to live where it was really cold, and we're talking minus 45 is the normal temperature. It's like,
Sure.
nope, I like this warm weather.
Yeah,
Very
I'm sure you
nice.
do. I'm sure
I
you
don't
do.
mind snow. I like playing in the snow, I like skiing, things like that, but I like being warm.
Yeah, absolutely.
But okay, enough about chit chat, but that's on the front porch. You talk
That's
with
it.
each other, you
And,
enjoy each
and I
other's
love that.
company.
I love that. And I love the format too. And hearing that it's too cold in the studio or hearing that you're in Texas and it's 84 degrees, it's literally like being on the front porch. And that's
Oh,
really, really charming. And I like it a lot as a format and as a conversation. I think it's great. I think it's great.
that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah,
Of course.
that's what makes it work. So, for our audience today, whenever they're watching this, wherever they are, whether snuggled up at home or sitting out on their front porch, let's talk about you and what you do. Tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Sure. Well, I'm a keynote speaker and an author. I speak about creating space for possibility and focus. And I started out actually in Connecticut, where I grew up, which is also not very warm. I grew up in Connecticut, and I started out as a juggler, interestingly enough. I learned how to juggle entirely by accident by being placed in the wrong after-school mini course. I was placed in a juggling mini course, and what I really wanted was a coin collecting mini course. Coin collecting has been a fascination throughout my life, and even as an adult, I write for four coin magazines and sit on the board of four coin organizations or two coin organizations. There you go. Everyone's got their
Yep.
jar, and that's a perfect front porch conversation, right?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
wanted a coin collecting mini course, but I was put in a juggling mini course and started juggling and connecting with people and performing and making people laugh and that sort of thing. And it was an unusual thing to have as a 13-year-old was this hobby that I quickly learned I could actually make money from, meaning perform and make money from. So I was doing
Nice.
professional performances, yeah, at 13 years old. And then
Wow.
yeah, exactly. And then throughout the course of my life, added in speaking about various ideas. And then, of course, writing came later. But I started out as this young entrepreneur at 13 years old with my own juggling business of all things. And then turned that into a lifelong, certainly hobby, but also love at the same time and avocation, vocation all in one.
That is awesome.
That's pretty
Yeah,
fun.
going back to the coins, I held up my coin jar for you to see. It's just a small one, but my dad got us kids interested in coin collecting, and usually
Good.
Sunday afternoon, he'd empty his pockets. We'd get the little coin booklets out, and we'd go through it and see what fit in there and what didn't. And so for my grandkids, I do that for them. In fact, don't let them know. So quiet, moms and
Yeah,
dads, if you're listening,
grandkids, if you're watching
kids,
this, cut it off now. You
yeah.
can't.
So this year, I thought about it last year, but now this year I'm going to give them each their they've all chosen numbers. I numbered everything. Everybody picked a number. And so they'll get their coin collections and then they can expand on it if they want to. But it was something fun that we did. I started doing it with my grandkids before we moved away. And so I've kind of carried it on, only I haven't let them know that I've done
Yeah.
that. But I've done some fun things with it. I've actually found some really exciting things like steel pennies. You
Okay,
know,
this is
you
amazing.
yeah,
This is
so
great.
it's just interesting how one thing will lead to another. And here you wanted this love of coins, which you do now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love them
Yeah,
still. Engage with them all the
but
time.
you got into something else. You got into juggling. I cannot juggle to save my life. If my life depended on it, I would die. I can't, I do
Maybe.
two.
We'll see.
That's it. Nothing more. So
Maybe I can
that's
give it to
really
you.
a skill. I'm
It
I'm
it
just
is. And for listeners listening who don't know what a steel penny is, I'll give a little
oh,
background. In 1942, the United States government realized that they needed the metals that were being used to make pennies for shell casings and other wartime activities. So they decided to start looking for another substance that they could use to make pennies out of. So they could use the copper and whatnot for shell casings. I think copper, manganese, whatever it might have been. It was mostly copper, of course, that they needed. But the point
right.
is that they decided on steel. So in 1943 and 1943 only, they made sense out of steel. And yeah, I mean, these are not expensive items, but they're very cool and very different. And when you find one, you think, oh, wow, wait, what's that? It looks
Yeah,
fake.
very
It looks
different.
unusual. Yeah. And certainly for young collectors, they're fascinated by them, of course, because they're just so different. There's some history behind them. And that's what makes coins interesting is the stories. So yeah,
Oh,
coins
definitely.
Coins were
Yeah.
always interesting to me because of the stories, and juggling was interesting to me just because it was something unusual that, was out of the norm as well, much like those steel pennies. So I like that as a
Yeah.
theme.
Yeah. Well, and then you put stories to your juggling too, right? Is that what I heard?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean,
So
and
that's
and
interesting.
yeah, stories in terms of, maybe a story that I was telling, but also stories meaning the wording that I was using in whatever I was saying that made it relevant. Meaning, if I was juggling for a podcaster, I would make the juggling patter be about communication and connection, sitting on the front porch, whatever it might be, and that might be
Right.
different than the next client. And I've carried that through today. So I think it's a fun approach to take.
Haha, that's awesome. So you wrote your book, Reclaim the Moment.
Mhm.
Why did you write the book? Why did you feel, oh, I'm going to write a book just because everybody else does? Or why did you write a book?
The circumstances around me writing my book were entirely unusual. So I
Okay.
had met somebody 6 years before I got my book contract who had said to me in casual conversation, having just met her, "Oh, wow, you're interested in writing a book? That's interesting. I used to be in book publishing. If I ever get back into it, I'll let you know." Okay, fast forward 6 years. On my website was my catchphrase, build a better now. And this person who I had met, who had said casually, if I ever get back into book publishing, I'll let you know. In the same way, someone would say, hey, I'm going to be in Texas next spring. Let's have lunch. And you go, okay. And you don't really pay it much attention. Well, this person did what she said she was going to do. She got back into book publishing.
Wow.
She got a job at Wiley, a major
Okay.
publisher, and contacted me and said, "Hey, I told you that I would let you know if I got back into books, and here I am. And I saw your catchphrase, 'Build a Better Now,' and I was wondering if you'd want to submit a book proposal about it." So I did, having no intention to write a book about Build a Better Now, and we batted back and forth a title over the next couple months and reclaimed the moment. 7 Strategies to Build a Better Now was the title that we chose. But yeah, I got signed to Wiley because I met the right person at the right time and had the right catchphrase and the right concept. So it wasn't like I set out to write a book and I'm going to get this thing published. It was more like, yeah, I'm just living my life, talking to people and
Yep.
connecting, which is what I do. And it led to something amazing.
It does. I am so surprised. And just, even the short amount of time I've been in this world of entrepreneurship and writing and publishing and all of this podcasting, all the things I do, so many things. Um, it's just surprising that people I met at the very beginning, I had no idea who they were. And now I've met them later and we're talking later and we're doing things together. And it's like, this is really cool because you never know who you've talked to that's going to remember you.
Absolutely.
and who you're going to make an impression upon. I mean, there had to be some impression for her to remember,
Absolutely.
so that's really
Absolutely.
cool.
It's really
Yeah,
cool. And to your point, I mean, just being yourself in the world is really important. It sounds so
yeah,
trivial and easy, but it's true, meaning that, I'll remember this podcast because of being on the front porch and talking on the front porch as a theme. No one else has that theme, right? And, how many coin collecting, keynote speaking, author jugglers are you going to meet in the next week, right? You'll remember
that's
me.
right.
That's how it goes, through being ourselves, we automatically make an impression on people's minds.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So I love your background. Is it part of your background or is it image?
Meaning this. No,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it's a brick.
nice. I
Yeah,
don't know why. I think
it's,
brick backgrounds are good, whether
it's brick.
multicolors.
It's legitimate. Yeah, it's a brick background. Yeah, it's a brick background and a curtain on this side and lighting and cameras and the whole deal here in the
Yeah, the
studio.
lighting's good. I'm still getting mine figured out, but
Yeah,
I really need to go get a hold of Junaid again. He was so good at getting everything set up. In fact, he helped me get it a lot brighter like it is now.
nice.
But this is your time to talk. Talk about so many things. Um, yeah, so build a better now. How do you build a better now? I mean, we all talk about getting better, but I like the
Sure.
idea of
So
building it now and making it
yeah,
better now.
yeah, the idea behind the book is that we can create space for possibility and we can dial in our focus. And basically, it's not just a book about eliminating distractions, although it is part of it. But I talk about 7 strategies and ways to bring us back to center when we've been thrown off track by the world. It's easy to be thrown off track by the
Oh
world, by the
yeah.
news, by the media, social media, what have you. So, if we do things like, keeping our eyes on what's most important to us, if we do things like establishing relationships or delving into, self-confidence. And I'm saying those things very simplistically. In the book, I go into them, in far more detail and in a creative
Oh
way.
nice.
If we do those things, then we create space amidst the chaos for possibility. So, things like, for example, there's a chapter called Leap into the Dark to embrace the possibility of success. And the chapter ultimately is about how we sometimes fear success. Like what happens if this podcast goes well? Then what do I do? It's much easier to think, oh, this isn't going to go well and not try. But if we delve into things and, then we create again space for possibility to occur. So the whole book is about that. And we build a better now through creating space in the moment that carves through the distractions. So ultimately, these are strategies to help us carve through those distractions.
Nice. Yeah, because there get to be so many. And one thing I've been talking to a few people about is as you're growing, there are these opportunities that arise and these opportunities. And pretty soon you've got so many opportunities and you kind of feel like I'm not doing what I want to do. These are
Yeah.
really great, but I need to get back to my basics. And and I think as you go on and you get better and you get more established in what you're doing, you can do that. Uh, go back to basics because that's what you're always going to. Now, for some people, they only have one thing they do all the time. For people like me, there's like, I got 10 fingers, I'm doing 10 different things just because, I'm waiting for this one thing to do, so I'm going to do something else. I can't just sit still for
Very
very
true.
long.
Very
But
true.
uh, but you have to come back, and it's not always chasing that shiny object. A lot of people talk about that, following that carrot, going down the rabbit hole. But sometimes it's you're trying to build yourself up. You're trying this new idea, so you really invest in that. But sometimes you got to go right back to, okay, where did I start with? Have I gone too far in this? It was a good detour, but now do I need to get back on my road?
Yeah,
So this
absolutely.
is a really great book. I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Yeah, it's a fun
Yeah.
read. I incorporated stories as we talked earlier about story. I incorporated stories all throughout. So rather than it coming across like I'm the guru, here's the truth, follow my truth. It's not that at all. And
Oh,
I even say
good.
in the book, I'm not a guru. It's not that kind of self-help book, personal develop. It's personal development, sure, if you want to classify it, but ultimately the whole book is stories, incredible stories of adventure that I've been on throughout my life, but I tie those adventure stories into the ideas. So again, it's not even like I've been on these amazing adventures and all you've been doing is sitting on the couch. It's not at all be like me. It's like, hey, here's some adventure stories that are fun to facilitate some ideas that I think we can both learn from. I mean, I wrote the book as a reminder to myself ultimately to focus on what's most important and to create space for possibility in my life. So the fact that other people are connecting it and it's got all these five-star Amazon reviews is pretty excellent. It makes me
That's
happy.
awesome. So we really should have that on my podcast called Reading Between the Words, where we really delve into the book and your journey and about this. So let's talk about you as an entrepreneur. So you started juggling. It wasn't what you had intended to do, but you enjoyed it. You started making a life out of it. So life was just happy-go-lucky, and you never had any problems, right?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, when I learned how to juggle, I was 12. So, not many problems at that point, right? There weren't many bills that I was concerned with, or I wasn't, concerned about job applications quite yet. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I did my first professional shows at 13. I was doing strolling at corporate events and interacting with some really high-end corporate folks at 15 years.
Wow.
And when I say high end, I mean, there's a story in my book about meeting Victor Kiam, who was the president of Remington, later owned the New England Patriots. I was
Oh,
15
wow.
and interacted with him. Yeah, it's quite an
That's
excellent
awesome.
story. It was fun. So, I had a very early education in interacting with all different types of people, which has been so valuable. And
Yes.
ultimately, I can sit here and talk about my career and talk about the book and what have you. But really, it all came down to connecting with people. It all came down to listening to people and having conversations like this one on the front porch, as it were. And when you connect with people in that way, amazing opportunities develop. I mean, and I don't just mean business opportunities, amazing opportunities for connection and personal growth also develop. So yeah, I love having conversations with people and just seeing where they lead.
That's really great. We moved around a lot growing up. So I didn't grow up in one town. I didn't grow up with one set of ideals because we were around people all the time. We got to know different people. And then as we were older, we realized people that stayed in town their whole life had this one idea of what everything else was like. They really didn't understand how different people are, how things go. So that's a really valuable lesson right there
Yeah,
is go out and talk to people. Find out who they are. Find out what makes them tick. Why do they pursue the passions that they pursue? And
absolutely.
and if they're not happy where they're at, why aren't they happy? And ask about the challenges they've had.
That's
Because
right.
if we only ask about the super really nice things, we really are only getting a little bit of the story. You need the big story. So that's why I asked, your life is going happy-go-lucky. You never had any problems. But I heard you say that you had job applications. So you went from juggling being your own boss to working for somebody else.
Well, what's funny is that even as I said job applications, I thought to myself, I've never filled out one
Oh,
because I never did. Yeah, I never did. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life since the age of
oh,
13.
wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. That's funny
And
what pops into our mind sometimes, isn't
well,
it?
well, at 13, what again, we're talking about relating to others and connecting. And, as a speaker and performer, I'm always trying to do that. So, if I said, yeah, my life was happy-go-lucky, I didn't have bills yet, and I wanted another example, I could have said I, didn't need to buy a car yet. That would work
Yeah.
for as a joke for a 13-year-old. But job applications seem to be apropos for a podcast about entrepreneurialism and working
There
with
you
and for
go.
others. So I threw that out there. But no, I've never done that.
That's interesting. Boy, have I filled out a lot of them. I had no idea about entrepreneurs. I
Mm.
knew that people own their own businesses, but I didn't know who they were. I didn't, and I met a few of them, but I was still coming out of the era where kids are silent. They don't talk. That was all changing probably about the time I was in high school. It might have been a little
Sure.
before, but in my world, it was when I was in high school and people want to call you by the first name. You don't call them Mr. I mean, when I grew up, everybody said either Mr. or Mrs. It was a sign of um, uh, I don't want to say the word honor,
Respect or
courtesy,
deference in a way. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Courtesy. Sure.
respecting your elders. And it was actually difficult for me not to call somebody Mr. or Mrs. or Miss, because I felt like I was being rude and doing them a disservice. But it didn't
Mm.
take long, Everybody else was, so I finally did too. But yeah, it was whole world changed when I was growing up. So many differences we could do. We could do a couple-hour podcast on all the changes that happened in the last 60 some years.
For sure.
But oh well. Um, but that's really great. You've been an entrepreneur all your life.
I
So
have.
do people, this is curiosity to me. Do people um talk to you different, do you think, than because do they understand what an entrepreneur is? Do they just say, oh, you have your own business, you've got people working for you? I mean, it's just, I know people did things on their own, but I didn't realize what it really involved, I guess, until I started doing it myself. And there's
Yeah.
a whole shift in mindset. I said in one of my other podcasts, I was walking on the steps to my front porch and I stopped and I said it out loud. I don't even know why, but I said, I have to quit thinking like a consumer and start
Mm.
thinking like a business person.
Mm.
And I don't even know why I thought that, because I was out doing something else and it just popped to my mind. You want to
Yeah.
figure something out, go do something completely different from what you're doing for a few minutes.
And is that what it meant to you? Meaning when you said I want to stop thinking that way and start thinking this way, what exactly did that ultimately mean as it turned out?
It means there's a whole different way of thinking when you run a business. You can't think of it like this costs this much money and that's it. You have to think about all the strategies, the marketing, how do people think? How does the consumer think? If for writing books, how I help people write their books, what are they really looking for? Why haven't they written their book yet? I have this Friday I've got a workshop going on. It's a real condensed version from my normal 3-month workshop. And in 90 minutes, we're going to get a book written. But what do those people really want? Why haven't they written their book yet? Or if they have written it, why is it just sitting in the shelf, in the drawer, on the computer, on a flash drive, a thumb drive? Why hasn't it gotten published? And to start thinking of the ways that uh, somebody says they don't, was it, maybe it was you that just said it. I've had several conversations today that talked about, I don't call them clients or customers.
Hmm.
I just call them people I work with because
Right.
that's really what they are. They're more than just someone who comes in retail sales, somewhere someone comes in, buys something, and then leaves. Because you really build a relationship with them. Um, so yeah, there's a whole different way of thinking. I've found it talking with millionaires. They have a whole different way of thinking than you do when you're just starting out. You have a different way of thinking when you're thousandaires. It's just this, and it's not that it's a bad thinking or the right thinking or the wrong thinking. It's just a different level, a
Different
different,
approach.
yes, and it's just been really eye-opening for me, mind-opening for me, maybe is a way to put it.
Mhm. That's great. That's wonderful. I love the different perspective shifts. It's fantastic. That's very cool that you had that sort of epiphany. And you said you had that epiphany on your front porch.
I did before I even knew I was going to do this. I'm walking on there. I'm right there. Got the
Wonderful. I
handle and I
love it.
and I just blurted out like it had to get out of my
That's so
mouth
great.
so I could make it real or something. I don't know.
That's
Maybe I
so
need to do
great.
that more often with other things.
Keep walking up and down the steps of the front porch. You're going to have all these epiphanies and you'll have all the
That's
content.
right. Yeah, and there is. I fully admit there is something about getting outside and walking around. This thought just came into my head. My grandfather. Now, my grandma and grandpa had a little 2-acre place in Idaho, and and the house was here. The driveway, was kind of in the middle. Driveway was on one side, and he would be walking along the driveway, and his arms sometimes would go up, and he'd just be muttering to himself. And my grandma, who usually outside, we were, I don't know, peeling potatoes or hanging up clothes or something, and she'd go, "What's that, Pa?" Because they called each other Pa and Pa, and he'd just kind of look, and then he'd keep talking. She'd snicker. She goes, and I said, I just thought it was funny. And I said, "What is he doing, Grandma?" She goes, "Well, he's just sorting things out. He's talking to himself." She said, "Sometimes he's talking to God,
Okay.
but he's just figuring things out. And whatever is on his mind, he's taking that walk
Sure.
and he's talking out loud." And I thought, "Oh, that's kind of a cool thing to do."
Yeah,
I do it now.
absolutely.
But she thought it was kind of funny because she knows sometimes that's all he's doing. My grandma was very funny and competitive. Oh my goodness. You played games with her. She played to win. So look out.
Yeah, look out, Grandma.
Yep. She was great.
That's great.
But yeah, get outside, walk around, talk it out loud. I've been hearing lately, I do a mindset every morning with a few people. And some of the speakers on there I'd never heard before. I'd never heard about Jim Rohn. I never heard about T. Harv Eker. Now I have his book, and I went to his mindset on the weekend just through
Mhm.
Zoom because it was in Germany and I didn't really want to go there this winter. but
Okay.
but yeah, talking things out loud and
Yeah,
not just whispering them, talking them out like we're talking. And when you're doing this where you're, I don't know if it's affirmations or something, but you say it really out loud so that
absolutely.
you emphasize it at the end. And it's like, okay, I'll give it a try. But it's amazing how when you were saying it out loud, all of a sudden things starts changing. And and I think that's really great. Now, what are some of the things you do? Do you have a morning routine?
On my best days, I do. And for example, this morning I didn't, but usually I like to. I really like in the morning starting out with a bit of meditation. And it doesn't have to be formal, it doesn't have to be in any traditional approach, but just sitting quietly and reflecting, or just sitting, just sitting calmly in a space that's set aside for that. So I can kind of
Yeah,
clear my mind from yesterday and just prepare for today. Didn't have a chance this morning, or rather, didn't make a chance this morning,
there you
but
go.
I also like doing some yoga in the morning too, just because yoga is a really great way to stretch and get grounded. It's really, really good.
Okay,
So I like both of those
good.
things, and also the gym, which is where I'll be heading after our podcast today. I'm actually going to go into the gym and ride a Peloton bike for half an hour or an hour, which is kind of something I do to get the blood flowing and get moving in the day. And that's always a good thing to do to start, is just do something physical in the morning so that we don't have to make excuses why we didn't do it later in the afternoon.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, this morning it was kind of tough to get going and then had some internet issues. So I was at meetings, but I had to be off camera. I don't know what it was. My phone has been doing weird things. Yesterday, someone sent me a text at 4 o'clock. I didn't get it till after 6:30.
Ah,
And then I see someone else sent me a text at 7 o'clock last night. I did not get it until this morning. And
really?
it's like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Either I need to reset my phone or
Yeah,
something's happening up by the satellites. I don't know. Because we live out in the boonies, so things just weird things happen.
yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of unusual. I've never had anything like that happen before. So I'll have my IT guy look at it when he gets home today.
Good. Yeah, the IT guy. Have your IT guy look at
Yeah. It's like he walks in the door, it's like, "Help." He goes, "What now?"
it.
But yeah, at least I'm learning some things I can do now.
Good. I'm
Yeah.
glad. That's important to be
Yeah.
self-reliant when it comes to technology. I mean, I think that we all struggle with some element of it sometimes. I know that
Oh yeah.
there's definitely been times where have everything set up perfectly. The studio's running great, everything's fantastic, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, a computer issue, whatever it might be. But typically, restarting a video switcher, restarting a computer, restarting,
Yes.
video, usually helps. So that's a good front line to tech issues. Restart and see what happens next.
Yeah, yeah. We used to have the running joke, is it plugged in? Okay. Did you turn it
Absolutely.
on? It's
100%.
like,
Yep,
yeah.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Viewers can't see right off screen. Right about there is a shotgun microphone pointing right at my face. And there have definitely been times where I've come into the studio and I'm standing here and everything looks great. The lighting's perfect. Video switcher on, cameras on, this, check that. Start recording something and realize that I did not flick the switch on that
Oh,
shotgun microphone.
no.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens. Make sure everything's on. And then if
And
everything's on, it doesn't work, turn it off, turn it on again, restart it. So it's
there
a
you
good.
go.
Hmm.
Yeah, when I before I went on to the platform I had before this, I had a very special guest come on to my show to talk, and I can't hear him for nothing.
Okay.
And it was a different computer than I have now,
Yeah,
and I didn't have the volume on. Somehow
happens.
I had hit mute, and
Yep,
so after that, I put a little sticky note there,
that's it.
turn the volume on.
I have
Just
uh I have a note somewhere around here that says the same thing. It says mic on, mic off after the debacle with the mic.
yeah,
But case in point, I can't find the note now, so I hope I don't
yeah. There you
turn
go.
it off.
People are fun, aren't they?
Yep, we are. We're
And you
ridiculous.
gotta laugh. That's the other thing. You have to laugh at yourself. You have to laugh when things aren't going right. I mean, sometimes they just get so frustrating. You just stop and go, okay, let's
That's
just
it. There's
reset me and
I
keep
have a
going
chapter in the
on.
book. There's a
Yeah,
chapter in the book
go for
called
a walk.
Engage with. Yep,
Oh, good.
absolutely. Yeah, there's a chapter in the book about laughter. So yeah, and how important it is.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
so tell me, if I was to come to you
Mhm.
and seeking your help, who would I be and what help would I be looking for?
That's great. I typically have people come to me who are typically individuals who need help with speaking and focus because they have an important presentation to give, life and death, mission critical, do or die type of thing. I'm a speaking coach for TEDx Perth, Australia. So individuals will come to me
Nice.
for speaking coaching. Organizations will come to me for help with focus and intention. So organizations will come saying, we need our people to be dialed in, we need our people to be motivated and excited, but specifically about what we do and why we do it. So those are the circumstances in
Nice.
which people come to me and the problem solving that I do. But with individuals, when they come to me and I'm doing speaking coaching, it's usually folks who have really important speeches to give, and I help them dial in what's important, how to use as few words with the highest impact possible, how to calm one's nerves, how to get over that fear of public speaking, but more importantly, how to drive forward an idea so that it comes across to an audience in a clear way. And organizationally, when organizations come to me, I make sure that the keynotes that I do are fun and engaging and focused and customized so that when people leave, they know what they need to do and why in order to have their focus and increase their intensity, for lack of a better word, around what is most important to them.
Ah, that's awesome. Yeah. And it's interesting because you might have, every once in a while I get someone who's a TEDx coach, and
Mhm.
they'll contact me, and there's so many out there, but everybody has a different way of looking at it. They have different ways of doing things. You bring on um, a different way of approaching it, and you approach companies. It's not just, oh, I only do TEDx talks,
Right.
type thing, to where maybe that's all they do is TEDx, and good for them. Everybody has a
Yep.
different way of doing it, which brings me to say that it doesn't matter if you're doing something and now you didn't know anybody else was doing it, and now you find 50 other people that are doing it. Everybody's doing it differently. And out of almost 9 million people in the world, there's enough to go around.
Yeah, or
Just,
even billion people in the world. Yeah, I think you said
yeah,
million,
what did
billion.
I?
There's a
No,
lot of
sorry, I
people.
meant billion. Yes, thank you. Thank you for
Unless
correcting me.
unless
Get
something
my
terrible's
focus
happened
rate.
overnight. Yeah, still billions. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, it's just incredible.
Yeah,
Excuse me. But
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, wow. That's that's a tough thing. I mean, sometimes we get out of focus. And I kind of touched on that earlier. Sometimes we get out of focus. We keep going and going, and maybe we need to just adjust things a little bit because we've hit this target forward so many times, and we want to keep going there, But in order to get to that next level, we have to adjust that perspective, get that focus a little different from where it was.
I agree. I absolutely agree. It's essential. And your operative word there is a little bit. Sometimes a shift of
Mhm.
focus doesn't have to be a dramatic shift, a dramatic change, a dramatic altering. It could be something that's just a slight shift, a little bit,
Nice.
and all of a sudden it has a dramatic effect.
Yes. Yeah. Who was I talking? I was talking about words. I don't know. I might have dreamed it too. Tell you, I work in my sleep. It's just crazy. Um, but sometimes just hearing a word, I know who it was. I think it was Alethea this morning on the Connected Leaders Academy call.
Nice.
She was
Okay.
talking about this summit or something she's doing about words and how one word can change your whole direction.
Absolutely.
And I never thought about that. It was just, yeah, that was pretty incredible to think
Yeah,
about that
for
and
sure.
how one word will mean have different emotions or feelings or
Hmm.
meanings to somebody else completely different from another person. I think we notice this in our relationships and our marriages, where we say something that's no big deal to us, but for some reason it's triggered to somebody else. And it's like, I had no idea that isn't how I intended it at all. So, we need to check ourselves. Something triggers us, find out, is it because of them, the way they said it, what they said, or is it something that really just specifically has to do with me?
That's
Um,
right.
so yeah, that's interesting that
Yeah,
that it's just
absolutely.
that little thing can do something like that.
A word, a shift, like I said in the morning, having a routine that's, yoga to stretch you out a little bit makes you approach your day differently, and then everything changes from there. So absolutely, all these things can help.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Wow. So do you have any events? I mean, do you do yearly events or workshops or things yourself?
Yeah, well, I've thought of recently that in starting in the late spring 2025, that I would start doing Build a Better Now themed online virtual events and a regular series of
Oh,
them, chapters of the book. But typically, I'm at the events of other people rather than doing my own, which is just a choice that I made. That doing my
yeah.
own events is just something that I haven't done around the book yet, but I'm excited to do it. And it's just a function of my travel schedule is pretty full, so I want to be able to be here and be focused on the people who would sign up for such a thing rather than just say, yeah, I'm going to fit you in wherever I can. It's not my style. So,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I plan to do my own events at some point. That would be really great. Even if they're virtual and even if they're just a small group of people like a cohort, I think that would be a really fun approach.
So I hear you refer back to your book quite often.
Hmm.
So I have to ask you, has writing a book really changed how you do business or how you look at things?
Oh, writing a book absolutely has changed how I do business and how I look at things.
Yeah.
Having the book, absolutely. Having the book in tangible form is incredible. I mean, it's not only a testament to a life lived enough that I could fill the pages of a book with content that's valuable, but it's a confidence boost for sure. And also it serves as an incredible business card to be able to say, hey, read my
Yes.
book and let's talk about it. So all these are really important ideas, and and meaning all the ideas in the book are important ideas, but the things we're talking about are important too. And that, having the book definitely changes the game. I mean, I could reach out to people now and say, hey, read my book and, let's talk. And it's just a different approach than I've got some ideas that no one's ever believed in, and I can't prove that they're valuable. I mean, I can prove these are valuable. Somebody decided to put them in a hardcover book that's available all over the world. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Pretty fun.
I like that. Yeah, it's one thing I've heard for a couple of years is your book is your business card now
That's
because
right.
it not only um, introduces you,
Mhm.
but it introduces people to your mind, to how you think, to how you
Mhm.
do things. And they get a deeper sense of, is this person going to be right for me? And
That's
it's
right.
like, I like what they're saying here, and I like this, and maybe we can talk about this. And hey, this is really going to fit with our company. So it's more than just a biography, more than a business card. It brings a whole different realm to
It
the
does.
person you're talking to.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. It's excellent to have a book. It's quite excellent, and especially to have one, that's on Wiley and able for distribution everywhere. It's really wonderful. I had a friend
Yeah,
in Reykjavik, Iceland, who went into a bookstore and asked about my book and was able to get the book in Reykjavik, Iceland. It's quite incredible.
that's crazy.
Mhm.
That would be so much fun. I would love to go to another country and pick up one of my friend's books and say,
That's it.
"Oh, look here.
Yep, here it is.
I'm going to do that."
That's great.
That would be fun to see my books there, but get my ego here a little bit.
There
But
you go. I like that.
yeah, yeah, it's just incredible. So, how can people find you? You've probably said, but let's say it again.
Oh, absolutely. Just my name, gregbennick.com, GregBennick.com. There's, video there, and there's, videos about, ideas in the book and things about the book, and not only just the book, but you can go there and get in touch. And then, of course, everything else you'd expect, LinkedIn, Instagram, what have you, all under Greg Bennick, GregBennick.
That's awesome. I do have another question. Sometimes entrepreneurs do not have big, huge business. Maybe they don't even have any employees yet. Maybe they've just finally gotten a couple of VAs or something. Um, but they still have to know how to communicate together. So are you the person to call to communicate with the other employees? Are you there just to get us focused on where we need to go to help us learn where we need to go?
Meaning, is it my role to help people communicate with their employees better?
Yeah,
Yeah,
is that
that,
something that you do?
Absolutely. That's totally part of it. I mean, it comes up in the book,
Yeah.
certainly communication, teamwork, connection, and leadership, all, under the idea of being more accessible to people and more open with people and more willing to connect with people and willing to reverberate with people. I think that all of those ideas are essential and they're all in the book as well. But I think that, yeah, when people come to me and ask me about communication and whatnot, that definitely is part of what I've offered to folks in the past, whether
Okay.
keynotes or workshops or trainings, that sort of thing, corporations, associations, small companies, businesses, what have you. Absolutely. People come to me with that from time to time. And, it's a mix, right? Sometimes it's teamwork, leadership, and, the traditional ideas, but then other times ideas like the reverberation effect from my book or things that people have had me speak about. So I'd say, yeah, absolutely. Communication and connection comes up all the time. It's all throughout the book, certainly in the stories that I tell and the ideas that I offer.
Yeah. So some people think, okay, and I've heard people say this, I'll just get the book, then I don't have to, do anything else. But, which is kind of interesting.
Mhm. It
But
is.
so I get the book, I read it, I implement it, and where do you come into the picture? Is it after I've read the book? Is it before I've finished reading the book? Where do you fit in with this,
Yeah,
with
I
your
tell I
book?
tell people in the book not to give away the end, but I tell people in the book, get in touch with me with what you do with the space that you create now that you've read the book, right? The book is about creating space for possibility. So, what are the possibilities you've stepped into as a result of reading
Okay.
the book? Let me know. And people get in touch with me all the time and say, I read the book, now I'm thinking this, I read this chapter, now I'm feeling this, I read this book, now I'm, experiencing this. So I think it's a gateway, right? So people get in touch with me all throughout. And then, of course, businesses will contact me and say, "Hey, we'd love to have you come speak about these ideas or do a training about these ideas." And they go
Yeah,
to gregbennick.com, they find out more about me, and then we work out a deal and a situation that allows me to interact with their folks.
that's awesome. Yeah, it is because I know there's times that I've read a book, it's like, well, I'd really like to get a hold of this person, and sometimes it's really hard to find them, but you've got
Yep.
everything right there. And of course, now the world's a little different than it was before COVID and stuff, so
Mhm.
everything's changed. Not that it's a bad change, but has just changed. Life changes. I
It
think of
does.
life like a river. The river goes through all these different things. It's always flowing, but sometimes it's on shallow, sometimes it's waterfall, sometimes it's rapids. It's just things are changing all the time. Sometimes it picks up
Absolutely.
a lot of silt, sometimes it dumps it out. So
That's right. That's
yeah,
absolutely right.
that's right. So get a hold of Greg, find out about
Please
these
do.
these moments that you have, find out what's going on. If you want to get your own book written, you can get a hold of me and we'll talk about that
There
too.
you
It's
go.
time to, you know,
Wonderful.
somebody said to me the other day, this is the fifth year I've gone by and I still haven't written my book, and I really want to get it done. Get your book written. get a
Yep.
hold of me. That's what I'm here for, is to help you and guide you and find out why you haven't done it yet. What is holding you back? Let's get into the real root of it and get that book done. There is nothing like the feeling of having your words printed and out there for everybody to see.
It's
And
really
even
great.
if you don't want it for everybody, some people are just happy to sell 10 books, you know?
Absolutely, they are.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I agree. I agree.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Greg, so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, our audience, for being here. Sure to go to Wisdom on the Front Porch, where you can subscribe to the magazine and find out where more podcasts are and if we're on your favorite podcast uh, platform. And if we're not, then send us a message. You can also send in comments for what you like or didn't like, for what you'd like to see in future episodes. But get a hold of us. This is all about conversation, and that's what we like. So, Greg, thank you again for being
Thank
here.
you so much. I
Yep.
appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll see you all next time, or hear us next time on Wisdom on the Front Porch.
Thank you for joining us today on Wisdom on the Front Porch with your host, Ellis Kirkpatrick. You can find us on our website, wisdomonthefrontporch.com, see previous episodes of the podcast, and view issues of the magazine. Did you know you can submit questions, leave reviews, or suggest topics? You can also tell us where your favorite front porch location is and what it means to you. We hope you gain value and insight from today's or previous talks. We appreciate your support for us so we can continue to provide value and expertise to you and others. Subscribe to Wisdom on the Front Porch magazine and join in next week when we bring you another great insight into the world of entrepreneur culture and lifestyle. Make today a great day. Always believe that something wonderful is going to happen.